So true. So what you're saying is that there is this vast shadow which we must deal with, our addiction to war, that's caused by this psychotic masculine.
Yes, an addiction to weapons of war.
And weapons of war. But to return to that first theme, the only healing is really in a revelation of the sacred feminine. And in your book, this book, you've taken every part of the work that you did before on the feminine to a wholly new level of intensity, because you really understand that this is not a question of a wonderful luxury. This is actually the necessity for our survival as a species.
It's an imperative.
It's an imperative.
It's an imperative, absolutely. And in a chapter in this book, I define the feminine as a totally new and unrecognized perspective on life that we have to move into.
Well, I think it would be wonderful if you read that definition,
yes,
because it's absolutely beautiful, and I think it's very important for everyone to get clearer and clearer as far as we can about what the sacred feminine truly is.
Okay. Well, to me, as I'm defining it in this book, it does not refer to the female sexual attractiveness that is so promoted in today's world, nor to the qualities of caring and gentleness usually, though not exclusively, identified with women, nor to the feminist agenda of the empowerment of women in a man's world. To me, the world feminine stands for the soul, and the unseen cosmic web of life that connects each one of us to all others and to the life of the planet and the greater life of the cosmos. It stands for the recognition that we live within a sacred order, and that we have a responsibility to protect the life of the planet and all the variety of species that it embraces, instead of exploiting them for the benefit of our species alone. So in sum, the word feminine stands for a totally different perspective on life, a totally different worldview or paradigm of reality, and for the feeling values which might reflect and support that worldview. It stands for a new planetary consciousness and the arduous creation of a new kind of civilization, which we've never had before.
Never had.
No.
What I love about that description is that you take it out of the area of controversy or antagonism or blame. You take it into the area of revelation. Yeah. That the feminine is the revelation of the Anima, Mundi, the soul of the world, the soul of the universe, the sea of being which penetrates everything. What is your deepest experience of that sea of being in your life? How have you felt it most?
I felt it growing as an awareness, as a consciousness, if you like, that we are embedded in a deeper reality, which is all the time interacting with this reality.
Yes.
So as my research has proceeded, I began to get a wider or deeper understanding of the whole panorama, really, of cosmic life,
yes,
which is all connected, every aspect being connected to every other aspect.
Well, that provides a perfect segue to one of the third great theme of your work, and that is that we're living in a particularly amazing moment for the planet, because what is emerging is a marriage between the revolutionary, radical, astounding new discoveries of science on every level of the nature of the universe, and the most ancient intuitions of the great mystical traditions about the nature of the universe are coming together to reveal that the universe is a web of interconnected relationship. Yeah. How did this marriage appear in your life? How did you begin to discover it and explore it, and what happened to make it so revelatory for you? Because your book actually has some of the most beautiful writing of your book is about this marriage and how important it is for us.
Well, as somebody living through the last sort of 30, 40 years, I followed the discoveries of science with great interest. I wish I were a scientist, it would be fantastic. But also because I belong to this organization called the Scientific and Medical Network, I heard the talks of many brilliant scientists coming from America to speak on what they were discovering.
Right.
And also I knew of the work of scientists like David Bohm, and I read the dialogues that he'd had and the conversations he'd had with different people. I knew about the work of Rupert Sheldrake from quite some time back, his very challenging book, The New Science of Life, that received such flack from the conventional scientists. And I also knew and was appalled by the materialist science, which is broadcast everywhere in our culture as being the only kind of science that is acceptable.
Right.
And I thought
it's a fundamentalist science. It negates all the great mystical scientists who've been, from Newton to Heisenberg to Einstein to Planck to Niels Bohr. These are all mystics.
Yes.
And here we have Dawkins as the high priest of this fundamentalist vision of science as explaining a completely meaningless universe. It's devastating what's happened to us.
And I think that Tarnas asked the question, he said, what is it like? What is it like as an impact on a culture to live year after year, decade after decade, with the idea that you're a meaningless speck of life in a meaningless universe? He puts it much better than that. But this is what has made me angry, really angry.
Right.
And I thought generations of children are being indoctrinated with this belief, because it is a belief. It's not a methodology. It's morphed into a belief system.
It's an ideology. It's a dogma.
An ideology, yes, and a dogma. Right. And that made me very angry. So I thought I must write a chapter on science in which I bring the new discoveries as best I can, mentioning David Bowie, mentioning Sheldrake, mentioning astrophysicists called Bernard Heish, and who are saying that the ground of being is light.
Yes.
Really, particularly the last one, Bernard Heish. This is what he's saying, and that the quantum vacuum is not a vacuum at all, it's a plenum. It's full, massively full of light.
And matter is condensed energy, which
and that is what
light.
we are.
Yes.
And this light is continually creating our world and us and all aspects of life. So I thought, how am I going to explain this? And then I remembered the wonderful Indian metaphor of the net of Indra, which I'm sure you know about, and how this great net of being...
This comes from the Avatamsaka Sutra, probably the most sophisticated metaphysical.
And I discovered that as well in the course of my researches, and I brought that in. So this image of the net of Indra is really what science is discovering now. And they will name it dark matter, although I don't know what they will name it, but they are making further discoveries which are taking them beyond the concept of the Big Bang as being...
Explain a little the net of Indra, because it's such a net of Indra, it's such a wonderful...
Well, it's this great cosmic net, which at every meeting place of the net there's a pearl, and every pearl reflects all the other pearls, so that they're all reflecting each other in this vast cosmic entity, really, of cosmic being. It's just such a beautiful image. And it also connected with my dream of being caught in the net, which I didn't connect with the net of Indra at that time, because I didn't know anything about it. But I now see that actually to be caught in this net is to be living consciously in that net. And that was where my
your circle
was too far to the left, and I had to become aware of the meaning of the net, really. And this is what they wouldn't perhaps call it the net science now, but I think some of them may be, and there's Amit Goswami is one of them, who understood that creation comes from consciousness as the ground of being. It's not our little consciousness that creates the world that we
light
see.
Consciousness that's manifesting everything, that is the seed.
And that manifests as all aspects of life.
When you have an authentic mystical experience, you know this. And sages of most religions have had this experience. It is simply shattering that at this moment there should be such a powerful scientific establishment which denies the factual experience of thousands and thousands of initiates across time of the fundamental nature of the universe, all of whom describe the universe in exactly the same way. Either they're all mad in the same way, or they're all seeing the same thing, because they've come to a level of awareness when this reveals itself to them.
Well, the trouble is that if you're educated...
I get as angry as you do, because it's such a waste of this potential that we now can see of the highest mysticism coming together with the most radical and imaginative and wonder-struck science that is open, armed with emotion before the glorious paradoxicality of the universe it's discovering. I have many, many, many deep, amazing scientific friends, physicists, who speak far more mystically to me than I do, who say, oh my God, you're so old hat, it's so much stranger than that. There are 10 parallel universes disappearing and appearing at the same time. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
And for that not to be at the center of our vision now is a terrible loss, because it's here.
It's a travesty, really.
Yes.
And also it gives to children the idea that their lives are meaningless instead of part of this magical wonder of what we are.
Well, not just meaningless, but that the only thing that you can privilege is reason of a very narrow kind.
Yeah.
You starve your intuition, you don't believe your dreams. If you have a mystical experience, you're not having an initiation into reality, you're having a psychotic break. This is far more than just a fundamentalism. It is a terrible, and I would say sometimes even demonic, attack on all those faculties that actually open us up to the glory and holiness and reverence of the creation.
Yeah.
And it's very convenient for those dark destructive forces that now want to take the planet over and destroy the human race. Let's be honest about this.
Yes, well, it ties into the thing that you can do anything you want in the way of weapons.
Yes.
Chemical weapons, you can destroy life with them with impunity.
But if you see the light, and if you have a dream, and if the Archangel Gabriel happens to come to you, you're immediately put into a concentration camp or dismissed as a loony. Yeah. But if you actually rape the environment and become a billionaire, you're celebrated as a megastar. That's our culture. It's brilliant, isn't it?
It is. You've got it in one, really.
Yes.
But anyway, this is what I tried to, why I was so interested in science, because I wanted to show the break in the 17th century. I wanted to show how Newton, as you say, was a mystic, and Kepler also.
Yes.
And Copernicus. And
it goes on and on.
Really, anyway, I did the best I could within the knowledge that I had.
Well, I want to ask you one question, and this is very important, I think, because we're continuing with this theme of sacred marriage, and this is the sacred marriage that could potentially change the planet. Mm. How do you think we would do things differently if we truly, truly grasped that section in your book of the coming together of the deepest perceptions of mysticism and the most advanced perceptions of science? How could we use that marriage to go to reconstruct the planet?
Well, I think that there are enough very intelligent people who are involved in science.
Who get it, yeah.
Who would get it, and they could communicate it, because I think it probably has to come from science.
Yes, well, that's why Rupert is such an important
and
figure,
because science is so well established.
Yes.
And I think there probably will come out some other younger scientists who will just suddenly understand. And also, in the training for a scientist, you're not trained in the mystical tradition. You're not trained in the great philosophy of the Greeks or whatever. You're only trained in the methodology.
Right.
So you really haven't got the groundwork to bring the two together. And this is what I've tried to do in my book, because I wrote in the Hindu tradition of the oneness of everything, which is what science is discovering through the discovery of the quantum plenum, which is everything that is, so to speak. So bringing the two together, bringing that great Hindu tradition, which is so marvelously...
Wouldn't it make it much more... Look, what it would lay down, it would say to the human race, the unification of the universe is a fact. Unity is not some fantasy of mystics smoking some drug in Benares. Unity is the reality of our relationship with absolutely everything. And here is the proof. This is what is being revealed.
This is what's needed. But it will come, I think. May not but in my lifetime, possibly in yours, but I think it will come, because things are moving very rapidly now. And also I think we're being helped from the other side.
Yes.
I think we are.
The fourth stream that runs through this book, and I think it's very, very important, is your understanding of the importance of the alchemical tradition. This is something I think that you derive from your passion for Jung, but it's also something that you discovered yourself. In a sense, the alchemical tradition could be said to be the most precise science of transformation that we have. And it would be wonderful to take the theme that we've just discussed of the marriage of mysticism and science and really present to the scientific mind that was open the process of alchemy, which is so rigorous, so austere in certain ways, so absolutely realistic about the darkness and difficulty and ordeals in human nature, and also so stratified, so careful in its explanations of how transformation works. I think that's one reason why Jung was so profoundly moved and attracted to it, wasn't it?
Yes, he was. Yes, absolutely. Well, I was attracted, first of all, when I studied medieval history, because I came across alchemy there when I was 18 or 19, sort of thing. And then
dressmaking is a kind of alchemy.
It is, because you're transforming. Well, many forms of human work are to do with cooking.
Yes.
All these chefs we've got on television.
Painting, music, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you're, as a human being, you are transmuting something into something else all the time, whatever it is your work. So the alchemical tradition is really about, first of all, the transmutation of consciousness. It's about helping the evolution of consciousness, assisting its forward impulsion, if you like, or its deepening process. So it's not about changing metals in laboratories and making gold. It was making the true gold, the true gold of the spirit.
Taking the lead of all of our chaotic impulses and turning it into the gold of conscious,
transformed
awakened,
consciousness.
Married consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. And they knew that. Not all of them knew it by any means.
But the great ones
But the
did.
great ones certainly did, and certainly Paracelsus, for instance.
And the Hermes Trismegistus tradition, which comes from Egypt, and then it goes through Arabia.
Yeah.
So many different streams of wisdom feed this particular...
Yes, but of course it all had to be done in many, both in the Islamic culture and the Christian, had to be done in secret for over many centuries. And that's why scientists don't understand it. They dismiss alchemy as those silly old people trying to make gold in laboratories. But in fact, alchemy is the foundation of science, and it's also the foundation of psychology.
Yes.
We look at it in the sense that Jung did, because they really had the concept that consciousness can change and transmute and grow into its true potential. Instead of living on the surface of life, you really go into the depths and you connect with the divinity of nature, because they were working all the time with nature. And they said, visit the interior of the earth. By that they meant visit the interior of your own soul,
your psyche
and the body, exactly, and also of nature, because they're all one, really, basically one. And so I became very interested, and I thought, well, I must try and write a chapter on that. And there were so many texts to quote from and beautiful passages.
What was the main theme that you wanted to communicate in that chapter? Because what came over to me, and let me see if this is what I received. What alchemy really is a massive challenge to the addiction to transcendence. The patriarchal religions have been very afflicted by a passion for the light, which leaves them to drop nature, drop the creation, drop relationship, drop the body. And here is this great, supremely beautiful and rigorous system that alchemy is, which is really saying that the final stage is not being out in the light, it's actually being completely embodied, marrying the light to the psyche, to the body.
Absolutely. And
in total presence, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the rubedo, that's the philosopher's stone, that's the miracle of incarnation at its deepest level.
It is, the miracle of incarnation, absolutely.
Yes, and this is part of this amazing new vision that's trying to come through.
It's trying to come through, and in fact alchemy, I think I said in my book, alchemy is actually carrying forward the tradition of the earlier shamanic cultures and the goddess cultures. And it had to be kept secrets for that reason, because they actually, Sophia was their guide. And that was the feminine principle, if ever there was one. And they called themselves sons of Sophia, Philosophia. So there you have it.
Heretic and subversive, because it didn't play with, alongside the addicts of transcendence, the boys' club that wanted to keep us schizophrenic by being addicted to the light and dropping matter. They were saying, no, it's in nature, it's in the darkness of the shadow, it's in the body, and somehow we have to marry that with the light and birth a new kind of human being that is embodied divine.
But they said it very, very difficult to do. And,
well, it's
and it is difficult. As we know, I mean, we try to do it as much as we can, each of us. And we know how difficult it is. And to do, for the whole world to do it, you can't do it. It'll have to depend on individuals, a group of individuals all over the world doing their own particular work in the best way they can.
Well, I think that's one way of seeing it. But the other way of seeing it, Anne, is that we are actually in a massive retort. The whole world is going through an alchemical crisis. And this is the most savage nigredo, the darkest period of our whole evolutionary history. And as we know, because we've been through many dark nights, and we have experienced the Nigredo, we know that this is both the most dangerous time and the most extraordinary time, because it's in the Nigredo that so many coagulations start to happen.
Well, if you
new
look back,
possibilities of order.
if you look at one of the stages of alchemy, is the fiery stage of the calcinatio, what they're called calcinatio, and we've been through this. I mean, the two towers, that was a calcinatio,
and the wars
and the wars in Iraq was the calcinatio, the last wars in the last century. So we've been through that stage of the Nigredo, really. We should be moving into the albedo, which is working through the grief, really, over what's happened. And this is working on the shadow, is actually bringing up the grief, bringing up the recognition of the wrongdoing and the harm that we've done, and really not expiating exactly, but
facing our responsibility.
Saying sorrow is my sorry, as my father always told me today. Say sorry. So to realize what we've done, and that's what my chapter on alchemy is all about, and also realizing that the evolution of consciousness in humanity is very, very, very slow. It takes millennia before there's any change at all.
But this is unfortunate. But we don't have millennia.
Don't have many, no.
So this is one of the reasons why your book is so important, because you've condensed the necessary knowledge for us, which we have to work with fast.
Yeah, as soon as we can.
So let's talk about the fifth great strand. The fifth strand of your book, and this is the strand that gathers together all of the great themes of the book, is that in this book, very calmly and with magisterial restraint, you're actually calling, and for a total revolution in our vision of God. You're calling for the emergence of a wholly new dream for the cosmos. Tell us what this vision of God is, and tell us what this dream that we need to dream.
I think the dream of the cosmos, to me, is the dream that humanity will awaken from its own dream, if you like, awaken to the dream of its greater destiny. And this is something that nobody's thought of before, I don't think, really deeply and properly. And so this is the most important part of my book, is to really reframe the image of God from what we've inherited from the past, which is a God who's separate and transcendent from matter and from the world and from nature, and bring that God down into every blade of grass and every aspect of matter, and show that God is the life process itself, is the cosmic process itself. God is not separate from the cosmic process, and I think this is the mistake that Dawkins and others have made, that they are going along with the old image of God. They're not looking for a new image which would be able to tune in with their science. And so I tried to really bring this through as best I could in the chapter on God, saying that we have to leave the old image behind, which has become an idol, really. And because it's become an idol, it's leading to these dreadful wars, because people worship the wrong God and think they're serving the wrong God,
and use
really.
their vision of this God to justify horrific violence in the name of the God.
In the name of the God. And to believe that God would want the sacrifice of the body and would accept the sacrifice of the body, or the killing of others and reward them in heaven for killing others. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Or in any kind of vision could justify the rape and destruction of nature, which is, after all, God's body too, in this new vision that you're
and also talking of rape, to bring in the rape of women, which is an absolute atrocity on the world's conscience, and is being addressed now, but it's part of the whole ethos of war. And so we have to change our concept of God to include matter.
When I listen to you talk so eloquently about this new emerging vision of God that we need, what I hear is this. I hear that we, as a human race, out of a hallucination of separation from this omnipresent soul presence, have created a series of intolerable games which are now threatening our life and the life of nature. And that unless we reclaim the divine feminine and see that the whole of the creation is saturated with the glory of the sea of being that the divine feminine is, we are going to commit suicide and take a great deal of nature with us.
No, that is the danger, definitely.
Yes.
And this is actually, Jung had a vision before he died of a great deal of the planet laid waste.
Yes.
But, he said, thank God, not the whole.
Yes.
And he also said, we have the power to destroy God's creation.
Yes.
And this is, you know, we've got to be aware that we've got to stop this. So this is the great message of my book, I think, as far as I've been able to articulate it.
And you have been able to articulate it. It is a magnificent, painful, poignant, exalted, extremely clear manifesto of a new way of being and doing everything. And I believe very sincerely, and it's not because I love you, but that's not why I'm sitting in this chair. I believe that this is one of the 3 or 4 most important books of the last 50 years, and that everybody who can read it should read it, because it is an education in itself. You bring together all the dimensions of our contemporary experience, and you manage to be at once very, very exalted and extremely and ruggedly realistic about where we are. And I don't know anyone who combines both that level of elevation and that level of sobriety. And the other reason why I love the book is that it has a unique form, which itself is a sacred marriage. It's a marriage between your own naked, very poignant, very honestly expressed personal experience. You've not negated the feminine. You've not tried to domesticate her voice, her cry, her passion. But you've married her voice, her cry, her passion to this immense, rigorous, disciplined work that you've done in all of the major mystical traditions, in the scientific tradition, in politics, in the understanding of war. And out of that marriage, which mirrors the marriage of the universe itself and is the whole meaning of your book, out of that marriage, you have created a manifesto for the transformation of our planet at a moment where everything now is at stake. So I really want to thank you from the depths of my heart for all the pain and labor and difficulty and marvelous excitement and all the thrilling adventures that you've been on to be able to give this at this moment of your life to the world.
Well, I would like to thank you for understanding my work so well, and also for transmitting it to other people so well, which is lovely. I think what I really tried to do also is to go back to the ancient Hindu or Vedic vision. And I'd like to read you a passage from the book which brings this in. Because you go back to the Bhagavad Gita and the vision of the whole.
Yes.
And so I'll just read this last page here. So I've said here, and this is what I've learnt from them, and this is my debt to India. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Jewish mystical tradition of Kabbalah, the Christian and Sufi mystics, all say that spirit can ultimately only be known or apprehended experientially, and that spirit is omnipresent, at once transcendent to and immanent within the forms of life. There is no better text to describe this fusion of the human and the divine than the Bhagavad Gita, and here is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. I am the one source of all. The evolution of all comes from me. I am beginningless, unborn, the Lord of all worlds. I am the soul which dwells in the heart of all things. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all that lives. I am the seed of all things that are, and no being that moves or moves not can ever be without me. I don't think we can really understand ourselves unless we understand the history of the evolution of consciousness and begin to bring together the different branches of knowledge that have developed with such extraordinary rapidity during the last 100 or so years and have become separated from each other. As we discover this incredible story, the realization is dawning that we are participating in a cosmic consciousness or intelligence which is co-inherent with every particle of our being and every particle of matter. If we connect these ideas to God, then God or Spirit or Divine Mind is not something transcendent to ourselves. We are co-inherent with it, at the very heart of it. To co-inhere means to be together, to abide together. This realization calls for a huge shift of awareness and a fundamental change in our values. If God or Spirit is not something separate from ourselves, something transcendent to nature and planetary life, but is the intelligence and energy of the life process itself, flaring forth at every instant in every region of this vast universe, as well as in ourselves, then how we treat so-called inanimate matter, planetary life, and each other becomes a matter of how we are treating God. It transforms obedience to God's commands into love and respect for God's creation, including ourselves, our neighbour, and most importantly, our enemy. It is clear to me from my study of visionary experiences in many cultures that a visionary is aware of the reality of worlds and presences inaccessible to our normal state of consciousness. I am absolutely certain through my own experience and my study of visionary experience that a wider, deeper consciousness than our own is trying to make itself known to us. It has been doing so for millennia. As long as this dimension of consciousness is denied existence and dissociated from our own, it will act in the manner of an unconscious autonomous complex, influencing us in all kinds of ways, some of them negative and destructive, until it finally attracts our attention. As long as we believe that consciousness begins and ends with the physical brain, we will never reach what we are capable of becoming, people who are in conscious communion with metaphysical reality. To reunite with the ground from which we have come, so assisting the further evolution of cosmic consciousness, is one of the most exciting quests that I can imagine. To discover that spirit, so long projected onto a transcendent creator, remote from our world, is the quintessential consciousness which is awaiting discovery both in nature and in ourselves, is one of the greatest revelations it is possible to experience. The other revelation, no less overwhelming, is that we have the extraordinary responsibility of helping spirit to become conscious in ourselves. Helping spirit to become conscious in ourselves. It may be that cosmic consciousness has waited eons for us to reach the point where more than a handful of individuals could awaken to this revelation. To respond to what is happening at the deepest level, to enter a new phase of our evolutionary journey, we have to create the vessels to hold the new wine that is now pouring into our culture through the awakening consciousness of many thousands, even millions of individuals. And that really is the final and complete message of my book, and that is, to me, the dream of the cosmos.